Hey everyone, Rich Lowry of National Review here, and we're here to do a week in review of our politics and culture. I am joined by the reporter, Audrey Fahlberg, the good neighbor, Noah Rothman, and the notorious MBD, Michael Brendan Dougherty. So let's start with Monday, all the way back on Monday when Trump had an emergency meeting at the White House with President Zelensky and other European leaders. This went much better, at least the Oval Office portion, with Zelensky than the first time around. Famously, he actually wore a suit this time and got some favorable reaction. Let's take a look.
First of all, Mr. President Zelensky, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah.
You look
I said
fabulous,
to
but at least it was a suit.
last time. See, now he's- I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelensky.
In the same suit. You see, I changed, you are not.
Maybe yours is much better.
So, look, this is what Zelensky should have done the first time around. That first meeting was a travesty. He shouldn't have been treated the way he was in the Oval Office, but you should dress up. You should be jocular with Trump. He enjoys that. You should be very respectful and grateful, and then litigate whatever differences you have with him in private. But something that got a lot of attention, and we're going to focus on here and put up on the screen, is the photo from the Oval Office around the Resolute desk with these European leaders arrayed like school children. So I'll go to you first, Noah. What is your caption for this iconic photo?
Maybe give this man a Nobel Peace Prize just so that we never have to do this again. I saw this juxtaposed with a Trump administration picture from a European summit a long time ago in the first term, in which the European leaders are bending over and lecturing to him, and the tables are very much turned here. That indicates to these, the people who are promoting that the president is in the jump seat now, quite unlike his first term. Seems more to me that if you judge by the expressions of these European leaders, they're engaged in a rote exercise that they really don't especially appreciate, but understand has to be done in order to get the geopolitical objectives that they want to achieve.
Audrey, your caption.
My caption is, "This time we're listening." Noah's right to point out the difference in body language here from that famous photo last time around with Angela Merkel in particular, looking like she's really lecturing Trump. But look, to Trump's credit, I think this time around, for years he's argued that Europe hasn't stepped up enough on the defense front. They spend too much money on their own welfare policies, climate, dealing with the immigration crises within their own borders, over defense. So the NATO commitments that he's gotten this time around, obviously, have been a huge deal. The first time around, they didn't really know how to engage with Trump. They're still figuring it out. But this time they understand that flattery and listening and being more engaged in this kind of way is a better way to get the kind of results that you want.
Michael.
The new Eurovision contest. Well, this is a group of leaders who are desperately trying to convince Donald Trump to do something he's been disinclined to do, which is make the U.S. perhaps a security guarantor for Ukraine in the future. But in a way, it just shows a kind of powerlessness and second-rateness of European military and diplomatic power right now.
Yeah, so I think the U.S. has always had this kind of leverage over Europe, but other U.S. presidents were hesitant to exercise it in such a blatant way. I guess my caption would be, we were really hoping a photographer wouldn't be in the room for this, because it is humiliating. And there have been all sorts of commentary how they look like school children, they look like the supplicants, but they all realize, as all of you pointed out, that's part of the game here. And getting Trump to do what they want depends on persuading him. And there's a certain mode for persuading him that everyone has learned that you need to comply with, except for Vladimir Putin, or at least, Putin played the game of flattering him in Alaska, but he's less susceptible to this kind of pressure than our allies are, right? It's easier to get them to play the game than the guy who needs to
Yeah,
say, okay, I'm
Rich,
ready.
this is not a sophisticated game. I learned this tactic in trying to get my kid to eat his chicken nuggets. It's flattery in combination with the application of a certain amount of pressure, a gentle pressure, but one that is packaged as though, look at the good you've done. Look at how proud we all are. What an accomplishment that you've made. Yes, it's far more effective than Angela Merkel lecturing the president over the geopolitical and geostrategic advantages that he would cede if he didn't pursue XYZ course. But you dangle a Nobel Peace Prize in front of the guy and you say that look at all the opportunities that have opened up before us, thanks only to you and your wisdom and judgment. And all of a sudden the world opens up for you. Yeah, it's the same thing with my 9-year-old.
All right, so also getting a lot of attention this week, Gavin Newsom suddenly all caps X account mocking, aping Donald Trump's post and clapping back at people criticizing him for being juvenile and sophomoric with the social media posts. Like, don't you get what I'm doing? Also, a lot of memes around Gavin Newsom from his fans and from his account itself. So, of course, we have Gavin Newsom on Mount Rushmore. We have Gavin Newsom. I kind of love this one. This is my favorite one. Getting prayed over by Tucker, Hulk Hogan, and Kid Rock. We have Gavin Newsom inevitably on a dinosaur. We have Gavin Newsom muscled up and bare-chested on a dinosaur, also on a bear, just like the aforementioned Vladimir Putin, and Gavin Newsom on a beaten down, tired donkey. Now, I confess I made that one myself. So, Audrey Fahlberg, question to you. Gavin Newsom's social media strategy, smart or cringe?
I think it's smart because it's achieving the one objective that's important for any aspiring presidential candidate in 2028, which is to be the center of attention and to have people talking about him. Of course, it's cringe. They're inevitably going to take it too far, the staffers who are running this press account. But everybody right now is talking about Gavin Newsom and his fight against Trump in the redistricting debate that is, now across the country. And yeah, I bet if I were Pete Buttigieg right now, I'd be pretty frustrated that everybody is talking about my rival in 2028.
MBD, smart or cringe?
Cringe is the new smart. It is cringe, but it is smart. Audrey's right. It gets attention. Democrats are looking for a party leader because Kamala Harris was not it. And right now, Gavin Newsom is volunteering to be the voice of the opposition. And that means, matching Trump in some ways, being as loud, as bombastic, as silly as he is. And self-deprecation works. Especially for a politician like Newsom, who, looks like he's invested serious money in mirror technology in his life. So yeah, I think it's a good move.
It's probably a pretty good investment if you're Gavin Newsom, right? A lot of mirrors. No, a smart or cringe?
It's smart for him. He's raised a lot of money and generated a lot of attention, raised his profile. It's cringe for the country because he's raised a lot of money and increased his profile. The degree to which it works it speaks for itself, but it says nothing good about the state of our political culture. And I don't think it has a long life to it because it is very inauthentic. I mean, the thing about Donald Trump's social media habits and what made them unique is that they were unique. They were his invention, and they came directly from his very strange thought process, which was, abnormal for political communication. It's now become the norm. Donald Trump made it that way. But it's his invention. You're just aping his style deliberately, intentionally, and trying to sort of cast it as untoward. But it's going to reflect poorly on you as being the insincere party. Donald Trump is 100% Donald Trump.
Right. So I think clearly the answer here, it has to be either smart but or cringe but, because it's a little both. I'll say smart. He's gaining followers. That's important. He's getting attention. There's few things more important in our politics now. But this is the string on this will run out, I think, fairly quickly. He can't do this for the duration, obviously, and he'll have to pivot off of it, and in part because of what Noah points out. With Trump, it was original, sincere. The only times Trump seems insincere is when he's reading from a teleprompter. Everything else is totally authentic. With Gavin Newsom, that is not necessarily the case. But Audrey, comes against the backdrop of a big debate among Democrats. What do we do? How do we talk about things in the Trump era? What do we talk about to get beyond this really low point for the party? The New York Times had a really noteworthy piece this week about how Democrats have lost 4.6 million net registrations in the 30 states that track registrations between 2020 and 2024. It'd be one thing to lose those in 10 years or something, but they've lost them just over the last 4.
Yeah, I think it's 2 million voters, but still enormous figure. And it's not just that Democrats are hemorrhaging voters, but Republicans are also gaining them quickly, including in battleground states like North Carolina, Pennsylvania. And if you pair that with, other metrics that are barometers of a party's health, I mean, fundraising is not great. Gavin Newsom's fundraising a lot of money, but the National Party, the Democratic National Committee, is had only less than $14 million on hand as of the end of July 31st, compared to the RNC's, I think, $84 million. So if you combine fundraising, party registration, obviously drastically low, record low approval ratings, the party is not doing well by any metric.
All right, so the federal takeover of policing in D.C. continues to get a lot of attention. There was a video captured by a local NBC reporter that engendered a lot of comment. Take a look. So a lot of people just said this was horrifying. I think that the Mediaite headline might have been originally, certainly was in my Google search, it still came up, heartbreaking video. The headline on the story I saw as of yesterday was stunning. But inevitably, it turns out there's more than meets the eye here. This guy had come into the country 3 times illegally from Mexico, had a final order of removal, and had a charge lodged against him in Fairfax County last year for aggravated sexual battery against a minor. Now you had J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth, among others, going and meeting with National Guard troops at a Shake Shack at Union Station. I'm sure, Audrey, as an inhabitant of Washington, you're very familiar with the Shake Shack.
I am.
Not my favorite Shake Shack, probably not yours either, because there's always a sense that anything could happen in this Shake Shack, when really all you want to do at the Shake Shack is get your burger and fries and maybe eat in peace and leave in peace. You're not always certain that's going to happen in that Shake Shack. But this is video of JD and Pete leaving, I believe, that Shake Shack. Let's take a look. Not looking particularly bothered by these people braying all sorts of abuse. So MBD, J.D. Vance thought bubble during that walk through Union Station. Oh God, these people. Thank God, these people.
I think it's like something more like just another day at the office. In obviously, a lot of conservatives love to rally to political figures who seem to be unfairly maligned or disrespected. There's a lot of, at least, vestigial ideas of veneration for the office, if not for the man. And so this is just catnip for a certain viewer. And, Vance will get to... Vance, in a way, has the best job of all, because he gets to go to the vice president's residence, which is, like, surrounded by woods and is far away from any kind of shouting or screaming or immediate vulgar threat. So he has a nice retreat at the end of the day anyway.
Noah.
Thank God these people. That's the option. I'm going to take it. There are very few protest movements that reflect well on the cause that they embrace. There are exceptions that prove the rule. They almost never attract critical mass to be large enough to affect political change. The Tea Party might be the exception, but broadly, I think that rule holds. I think Democrats have generally appealed to the protest faction within their movement when it comes to reacting to just about everything in the Trump administration, but especially the takeover of DC. And they played it very poorly as a result. However, it would be unwise for Republicans to lean into, for example, that account which is saying, "Oh, this kind of excess is what we voted for." It would be unwise to underestimate the political schizophrenia of the American people. They want their cities restored to livability, but maybe not that way. And if there's some sort of an incident that can attract a lot of attention, especially now that the National Guard is carrying service weapons, you might expect something that'll rub the American people the wrong way and undermine what should be a very serious and very important project.
Audrey, what's his thought bubble?
Definitely thank God for these people. I mean, look, with the federal takeover, clearly Trump and his officials are eager to clean up and, as Trump would say, beautify the city, right? But I also think that there's an underlying political agenda here, which is to portray the left and Democrats as opponents of policing and cracking down on crime, particularly in the district. And there was another hilarious kind of similar moment I witnessed. I'm kicking myself for not taking a picture of it, but there were protests outside Union Station, which we see in this picture. And there were these protesters yelling, "We don't want Nazis in our town." And the National Guardsmen that they were yelling at, all four of them were black. So it was kind of a perfect distillation of the optics being totally off. So again, I wish I'd gotten a picture of that. But, next time.
Yeah, I think the thought bubble is thank God these people. I mean, this is kind of classic conservative politics 101 from Nick Reagan, Nixon on. Being shouted at by protesters is a good thing. And National Guard troops, I just don't think people find them inherently threatening, especially these guys. No, I think there've been conflicting reports about to what extent they are armed. They've sort of said, "Oh, we're going to have weapons at hand," meaning they're back in the armory. They can get them if they need them. I think with a lot of these guys, but the pictures I've seen, they're standing in front of buildings. They're walking down the street. They're standing on a metro platform, and this does not scream Gestapo. And the early indications are that crime is down initially in DC. Now, I think a lot of that is probably just any malefactor has heard that the federal forces are coming, or seen them in person, or seen them on social media or local TV. So you're keeping your head down. It doesn't mean that the needle has been fundamentally moved
Sure.
in terms of public safety in DC, but better than the alternative.
But look at the trajectory of the deportation regime. Americans wanted a deportation regime. It's one of the top reasons they voted for Donald Trump. And at the outset of the presidency, there really wasn't any opposition to it. And then they saw it unfold, and it's one of the things that this president now has to defend. His border security, everybody loves border security. The deportation regime, they're a little 50-50, closer to 45-55 on that now. And it's only because of the optics. The American people get squeamish on this when the rubber meets the road. So it's wise for people who support this kind of initiative to understand that overreach is always a possibility.
All right. So this week, the White House joined TikTok. Let's take a look at their initial post.
Every day, I wake up determined to deliver a better life for the people all across this nation. I am your voice.
All right, Noah, rate that video. Awesome sauce or shameless?
It's a great video. The video is fantastic. It does not belong on that platform. That platform is illegal. It has been rendered illegal in the United States by Congress, upheld by the Supreme Court. The President of the United States is derelict in his duty to enforce the law. His noncompliance should provoke Congress to be a steward of the powers that were vested in it in the Constitution. It is utterly a pliant just facile institution at this point. It should have some self-respect and sue the president for utterly ignoring flagrantly its own directives. It will not. It is cowed. It is a toothless institution. What's more scary is that the competitors in the social media space aren't suing either. Even though they could, they probably have standing, but they too are afraid of a president who's got his hands in a lot of private sector pockets. That's the sort of thing that is deleterious to the social fabric, and that video, good as it is, powerful as it is representative of the deterioration of the rule of law in this country.
Audrey, awesome sauce or shameless?
It's shameless. Noah's right. It's a great video, but he's clear. I think it's pretty simple. He's flouting the law here. Clearly, he and his team have made the calculation that TikTok is beneficial in getting young people to get on board the Trump train. So I imagine that they're not gonna want to abandon that project anytime soon.
MBD?
The video is awesome sauce. Trump's team has been the best at video of any Republican candidate in my life, by far. As far as TikTok, I mean, I know emphasizes the fear and servility of Congress. I would point to the fear, and I think justified fear, in the White House. They are afraid that if they carry through with Congress's law to ban TikTok, to essentially press the button and zap it off over 100 million phones in the United States, this is going to be a massive political scandal, and I think it would be for the White House, and I think it would be hugely costly among young voters.
So it wouldn't matter if Trump just look, the law's on the books. I got to enforce it.
Yep, I don't think. I think people hold the president responsible. I think they don't read Article 2. They get as far as the buck stops here, and I think he'd be held responsible. And I don't think that says something great about the American people in this case.
So no, do you think that's right? There'd be a huge backlash if he actually followed through and the app were banned?
I do. I also think it's a non sequitur. I don't care. That has nothing to do with whether or not you, the executor of the nation's laws, should be executing the nation's laws. It's just beginning, middle, and end of the story.
So it's clearly shameless. I mean, it's a great video. Trump is just made for videos like this. His team is very good at it, as MBD points out. But Audrey used the word flout, which we use very often in instances where the executive's kind of finding some way to work around the law. But this is literally flouting because you're going on the platform and using it for your purposes when the law says you're supposed to be ensuring that it's sold or shutting it down by a date certain, and we just blown right through that with no end in sight. So MBD, big event in the sports world. Minnesota Vikings have unveiled male cheerleaders, and here's a video of one of them. The two of these guys. Here's one of them doing his routine. There he goes. Look at this. Look at him go. Look at him go. All right. Look at that. I would have definitely torn a hamstring somewhere along there, maybe at the first couple of steps. Now, the Vikings have pointed out male cheerleaders aren't new in cheerleading, and they're right about that. Obviously, at the collegiate level. Also, this was a surprise to me, at the NFL level, we've had several teams with male cheerleaders for a while, but these male cheerleaders haven't been like these new Minnesota Vikings guys. They've been a little bit more like this guy, a whole different mode. Check this out. Whoa. Yeah. Cool. All right, there you go. Whoa. Do not try this at home, folks. Look at this. It's just getting started. So she's putting her life in his hand, his one hand. So that's the traditional male cheerleader. A lot of strength and dexterity. there. So MBD, Minnesota Vikings, so-called new generation cheerleading. You care or you don't care?
Listen, I don't particularly care. I don't have a lot invested in cheerleading at the NFL level. I don't. I watch sports. I don't watch for the cheerleading. I mean, I'm invested in this only in the sense that like everyone in the culture, this is you performances like this are meant to make commentary or a reflection of our ideas of what masculinity and femininity are. And that's what's being played with here, is to have a male cheerleader cheering like traditionally, female dance teams and cheerleaders do. So it's it's obviously playing with like twink imagery, if you're familiar with the lexicography of the LGBT community. And
I'm not
Somebody
that
ask him to
familiar with that one. I
define it.
can guess.
Somebody ask him to define it.
Yeah, I can guess.
I know. I mean, you know it when you see it is the definition.
There you go.
All right, well, we'll go there. Listen, I'm not a prude about these things, but like, I question whether the NFL is the appropriate forum for this. Whether in a sense this is another attempt by corporate entities to kind of goad their own fan base and their own customer base into a reaction, which I find kind of despicable. But otherwise, listen, I don't care. You can use the remote control. You can avoid this if you don't want to see it.
Audrey, care or don't care?
I'm going to be honest, I really do not care about this. First, I'm just not really a football fan, but I think this is obviously very different from the transgender athlete issue. Not that anybody's making that comparison here, but this isn't a competition. It's not like a swim meet. Clearly, he's a decent athlete. If the fans hate it that much and it really affects ticket sales, then the team will learn that the hard way. But personally, I don't really care about this.
So you're not a football fan. Are you a sports fan of anything?
Well, my boyfriend's a big Mets fan, so therefore I'm a Mets fan.
All right. Well, we'll
property.
pass that one over in silence. Noah, care or don't care?
I'm gonna make it a hat trick. Don't care. In fact, my not caring actually deprives this institution of the reward that I think they wanted by being provocative. I have some cheer dads in my life, and they did come across this, and they didn't care either. But they did note, as you noted at the outset, and as Michael said aptly, I can't really improve on what Michael said, is that the thing here is that he's doing female choreography,
Right.
which is not what male cheerleaders do, as the images that you just as you just said or showed portrayed. There's a very different format that he's, engaged in here, and the design is to bend gender roles and to be provocative. And I suppose it worked on the internet, but it didn't work on me.
I care. I reckon this is not the biggest issue in the world. It didn't generate as much of a reaction as I would have thought. It definitely runs counter to the so-called vibe shift we've experienced since Trump's election. But I do think it's mocking the feminine. I do think it's inherently ridiculous. Even if you want to integrate these guys into the dance routine, you'd give them male moves, not moves that are meant to enhance or show off feminine appeal. So I think it's campy, and I find it distasteful. But not the biggest issue in the world. But maybe this is the biggest issue in the world. Cracker Barrel going through a rebranding. They changed their logo and also changed their interiors. Check this out. Anodyne, blend, generic. Where are our tchotchkes? So Noah Rothman, you already yearn for the return of the old Cracker Barrel. Yes or no?
I have never yearned for Cracker Barrel one way or the other. I don't particularly have strong opinions on it, but to the extent that I do, it has everything to do with the fact that the food never brings me back. And the conversation around this has really not generally focused on the food, which if the appeal was less about the tchotchkes or the games at the table or what have you, even if that was to go, you'd still say, well, at least the food was good. But no one's saying that.
So
We were talking a bit ago about the Democratic Party's problems appealing to its voters, and one of the most gormless, cloying things I saw was the Democratic Twitter account saying, quote, "We think the Cracker Barrel rebrand sucks too." Please let us get in on some of this hot social media outrage action.
So now you're so out of touch. Audrey, please tell me you're yearning for Cracker Barrel one way or the other.
Well, I must say, I don't think I can yearn for something that I've never experienced. I've never been to Cracker
Oh,
Barrel in my life.
so
I always
you're a
wanted
no
to,
too.
as a kid during on long drives. My parents always just wanted as few breaks as possible. But look, I think Dominic Pino from Ash Review had a good point online yesterday when he said something to the effect of, and all these posts with Republicans yearning to go back to the good old days with the former logo. People are talking about how they want to go back to the good old days and experience what they did as a kid. When I went to Cracker Barrel years ago, or in my childhood, which clearly suggests that the brand is in dire need of a rebrand. Whether or not they succeeded here, I'm not so sure. It seems like they've lost quite a bit of revenue, and the new logo looks quite boring. But clearly, they needed to change things somehow.
So MBD, please, you're not making it unanimous, are you? You're also a no.
I hate to make this unanimous. I understand people are used to what they're used to. They care about what they care. They care about the traditions, and some people go every week, have the same meal with their granddad after church every Sunday at Cracker Barrel. And now Cracker Barrel's new design is sort of like a pastiche of what it used to be, or like a
Mhm.
commentary on it. I understand people are mad. I don't particularly care. When I heard that some people saying in the conservative media that Cracker Barrel had gone woke, I thought like, oh, this
Mhm.
is a funny joke. We're kind of playing on everyone. Like, this will be hilarious to make people think we actually care about Cracker Barrel this much. And then I see Chris Rufo actually trying to drive the stock price down to a certain level in order to achieve success in this culture war that I had no idea existed. Um, in fact, the idea of a woke Cracker Barrel is the first thing that made me want to go to Cracker Barrel, because it's like, it's a woke, like a woke Piggly Wiggly, or a woke.
Yeah. How does this work?
How does it even? Yeah, how is it woke? Am I going to get a little critical race theory on the side with the? How do you deliver this to me? I'm willing to go and try it out. I'll be the guinea pig. If there's like if next week it's like woke Chipotle, I'm getting in line.
So I had to say I'm making it unanimous. My answer is also no. I think I've been a Cracker Barrel once or twice in my life. I have to say no. I believe I had the country fried steak with a lot of gravy, and I think it was pretty good. But this is not one of my roadside stops. I sometimes feel a pang. Maybe I should do it. When I drive from south from DC and you go past Fredericksburg, and there's a huge Cracker Barrel sign. It must be like 200 feet in the air, the highest sign you see from 95. But I've never stopped
I
there, so
just
I'm
have
no.
no time for corporatized home cooking. And I feel the
Mhm.
same way about Boston Market, Boston Chicken.
Yeah.
Like, it never did anything for me. If I'm going to get like a home style meal, it better come off my range or my mom's stove or my relative of some kind, because otherwise it's a pale facsimile of the
Yes,
real
I
thing.
kind of liked Boston Market. I know it's impossible to find one now, but I so love turkey and stuffing and gravy and mashed
Mac and
potatoes.
cheese is
I
so
could
good.
have a Thanksgiving. Yeah, but they're hard to find, perhaps for the reason that Noah's hitting on. So let me ask you guys, what is your favorite roadside stop if we're talking about a chain, MBD?
A chain. I mean, listen, fast food would be Chick-fil-A, because the chicken is better and the service is great. But if it's like one of these comparable to Cracker Barrel, I guess Outback Steakhouse is the one. It's total fake Australianness is itself a kind of charm. You know, it's like I don't believe any of these words on the menu are actually indigenous words in Australia, but I'm willing to play pretend for those wings and that bread.
You're such an ironic restaurant goer.
I guess I am. Yeah, the sincerity of Cracker Barrel's nostalgia for grandmas puts me off, but the total fakery of Outback's Australian character somehow appeals.
So Audrey, your favorite roadside stop?
Chipotle all the way.
Oh, Chipotle's great. Noah.
I guess I'd have to pick Shake Shack, I suppose.
It's a good one.
But there needs to be like a Mediterranean fast food.
Kava,
Mediterranean
kind of?
flavors are fantastic. Kava doesn't really cut it for me,
Huh.
and I know this is gonna be controversial, but the bowls, I just don't do the bowls that are full of garbage. And I tried one of their pitas. The pitas was just okay. They could do it better. The best fast food in the universe is the halal street cart anywhere on 6th Avenue in Manhattan. That pita is phenomenal. And it's only $3.50.
Have you ever
Mom
encountered
Donnie's
this?
on that.
Have you ever encountered this one, Noah? I've always been curious about it, but I've never had the time to delve into it myself. But there's one up the block from the studios of Fox. I think it's at 49th and
I
6th.
know exactly what you're talking
There's a
about.
line down the
Goes a
block
huge
every
line.
single time it's open.
Anthony Bourdain featured it on his show. It's so popular. And no, I've never had the chance to go there. You know why? Because the line is down the
Yeah,
block.
the
It
line
couldn't
is
possibly
so
be that
long.
good. It's certainly not worth waiting. There's one 2 blocks down. We could just get it right now.
So my favorite stop is McDonald's. I just think there's no topping McDonald's, especially McDonald's fries. And when you gather your food from the window there, and you kind of pull over a little bit to organize your stuff, and invariably, because you can't resist, take those first 1 or 2 fries when they're too hot to eat. They're so good. I think it's one of the best bites in American cuisine. With that, that's it for us. Thank you, MBD. Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, Noah. That's a wrap in your week in review. We'll see you next week.